I have to be first and I have to be productive and I have to be successful in this way. And here's how that's measured, not by just me, mom, and dad, but by society. We have not really evolved alongside modern medicine for that long. And of course, modern medicine in this day and age is essentially like compounding extrapolated parts of plants, constituents of plants. And we're now calling the thousands of years of evolving alongside a group of beings an alternative tactic. Sometimes I don't really want to show up and speak about my burden because I feel like I'm burdening somebody else. We have to pay somebody to really listen to us, because if we're paying them and they're a therapist, then we can kind of lay that belief system down that we're burdening them.
Thank you for watching. Please take a moment to like this video and subscribe if you've not already. Every like and subscribe is a free way to support us, expand our reach, and help plant new ideas.
A nice tingle. Is that the cinnamon?
Yeah, probably like a little bit of the like warming aromatic nature of cinnamon coming through.
So your friend Sophia was here and she brought cacao. I think it's such a beautiful thing to have herbalists like you. There you go. That was a 30 dropper.
Yeah.
Normally,
like if I'm in my own space, I'm like 4 droppers full.
Yep, go nuts.
Let's do it.
Nice. So now is that something that you offer your patients, or what are you doing with that? You just making that for yourself?
Yeah. So I
what do you call them, patients or
my clients?
Your clients, yeah.
Yep. So specific to Colorado as well. The verbiage is really important. So I see clients, I have a small private practice, and I create custom blends and formulations depending on individual needs and patterns and things of that nature.
So how did this inspiration come about? I know that you're from the Florida, how are you connecting with nature in an early age?
I feel like childhood for me was incredibly like playful and very imaginative and very enchanting. That land was it is very enchanting for me now. I had like a weird lull in my teenage years where I think like the humanscape of growing up in the South eclipsed the magic of the landscape for me. I can touch on that, I guess, in a little bit, but childhood was really magical. I think growing up in the age like right before the cell phone, especially like the cell phone in the hands of the child, I'm so grateful. So grateful for that. And I spent so much time outside digging in the dirt and running around barefoot as this, little like feral wildcat creature. And in a way, I did grow up in the suburbs in like a little neighborhood, but I still found my pockets of earth to dance upon and earth to learn from, and was really engaged with like insects and butterflies, and growing up on the beach and near the coast and being so gravitationally drawn to the water. Water is, I think, a huge part of my formation and my formative years, especially, and like treasure hunting for seashells and swimming, and yeah, all really, really dear to me.
Now, is anyone guiding you in this way? Were you pulling inspiration from anyone, or is this just your own self-led?
I think definitely a bit of both. I was really connected to my like nuclear family as a child, and we were all super close, and my dad was this very playful, very imaginative person, and I think really invoked that sense of enchantment and wonder in me. And I remember on like Mother's Day or any sort of like celebration for my mother, we would get in our little golf cart, speaking to like the suburbs part of me, and we would go around in the early morning and like pick flowers, or like go clip magnolia blossoms off the tree and create a bouquet for her. And he really instilled this like beautiful sense of fun and wonder and appreciation for the natural world in a way. I think if I'm speaking like directly to someone who kind of guided me in the natural world, I think that my dad's father, my grandmother, I call her Nana, she lived in the Bay Area, still lives in the Bay Area, but an hour north of the city. So it was this like very beautiful sort of like enchanted fairy grotto of a tiny little town in the valley. And she always grew her own vegetables, and she had chickens, and she would collect their eggs, and would have bunnies. And I don't know if she would refer to herself as like a folk herbalist, because she's not really touching on the medicinal applications of like, oh, you use this from the garden for fever, you use this from the garden for an upset tummy. But she's very aware of her surroundings, and she's very aware of seasonal rhythms, and she's very aware of like just these cycles of nature and her place, her role within this cyclical nature of everything. And I think that was really inspiring to me as a child. And I think the sort of like drastic difference between growing up in the South, even though it's the panhandle of Florida, like we're in the South, to going to the Bay Area once or twice a year to visit her. There weren't really a lot of people talking about plants, and there weren't really, at least in my like circle, or the circle that my family would kind of bring me in, like there was no one in the South really around me that was talking about this sort of like earth-centric life to be led. But then I would go visit my grandmother, and she really instilled this sense of slowness and this sense of like observation and perception in nature. And it felt so foreign to me in a way to like view the world like that, and yet it really like wove its own threads of enchantment into the way that I showed up to the world as a child. And I remember her, like, we'd go on walks, and she would stop my sister and I and make us close our eyes and like brush our faces with California poppy, or be like, come here, and we would like get really close to the ground and look at newts in the rainy season, or smell the leaves of a bay laurel tree. And yeah, she is highly aware of her surroundings and these natural rhythms. And I think now that I'm older and I'm able to, you know, reflect back on my childhood, I'm like, that absolutely like helped me in weaving the tapestry of where I am and my role in the world and what I'm pursuing. And I'm very, very grateful for her.
What's her name?
Lene.
Lene. And how do you bring Lene kind of forward with you? How does Lene show up today? How do you work with that today?
I think that my approach to the plant path and my approach to my work in herbalism is still very guided by this like enchanted inner child. Like I carry the magic that she instilled within my childhood world. And I feel like I still really lead with that in my work, even though like I've had a pretty hefty dose of like rigorous science and phytochemistry and all of these like beautiful scientific segues into understanding more of the natural world. I still feel like I lead with this sense of wonder and this sense of awe and maybe magic in a way.
And I think that's something that is missing. I was sharing before we started rolling that I do things to try and tap into like the child play in me. Like, what did I really like to do as a kid? I loved being in nature, climbing trees, riding bikes, just collecting leaves and rocks, and just exploring, just being in wonder in nature. And I think that, and I lost that for a long time. I was like, oh, I can't climb trees anymore. I can't really go off the path. I can't go get lost in nature like I did before. And now I've intentionally brought that back into my life. It sounds like that's something that you foster, is that connection, that childlike connection into nature.
In other news, because of GMOs, monocropping, and soil depletion, Americans are not getting enough nutrients. That's why in 2018, I founded Be Micro, the first freeze-dried microgreens company in the US to help Americans get more natural nutrition in their diets. Microgreens are a phase in the plant's life, and they're just 14 days old and naturally the most concentrated in vitamins, minerals, and unique antioxidants. Our microgreens are all grown here in the US and certified USDA organic and regenerative organic. We grow slow wash and freeze dry them to extend their shelf life from 1 week fresh to over 1 year, allowing us to ship anywhere in the US without the worry of spoilage. We have 2 flavors: broccoli, backed by over 2,000 studies on sulforaphane for its powerful detox benefits, and a blend of broccoli, radish, and red cabbage, our most powerful detox formula that we've tested, giving you the most bang for your buck. Easily sneak these into any meal: eggs, pizza, pasta, or even your kids' mac and cheese. We have whole leaf, powder, and capsule options, so you can choose the way that works best for you. Use code PLANT15 to save at bmicro.farm.
What benefits do you think that brings us to stay connected to that childlike wonder and play with nature?
Ooh. I think it leaves space for the mystery. It leaves space for the mystery to also keep unfolding. And I even notice in my own like adult life, you know, moving through the world and again, like just accumulating so much information that it's not very often that I find myself in a place of emptiness where it's just me without any preconceived idea of what a plant is, or, you know, the land that I'm on, any sort of touching on that space. Like being a child, you just wander out into a space. Maybe you don't really directionally know where you are. Maybe you don't know the Latin binomial of the tree that you're sitting under, but that tree is moving through you and you're moving through that tree, and or whatever it is. I think even like sitting on the ground really close to the sand at the beach and looking at shells invokes that same feeling. It doesn't always have to be plants, but I think that there's this like really beautiful animistic style to being a child in the natural world and being in relationship to everything in this really uncensored way. And at least for me, like I didn't have a formal education in the natural world. It was just the natural world communicating something to me that I was able to understand without words, and probably me to it, or you know, whatever you want to attach there. But yeah, there's just such an importance to me to almost remind myself or bring myself back to a state of, okay, I'm out in the natural world, or I'm out in the mountains, or on a beloved trail, and I don't need to categorize. I don't need to figure out. It can all just be as it is. And I think that we can put people, and we can put places, and we can put plants and everything else into a box. And then we don't really let that box expand or become amorphous in any way. It's just like, here's my understanding of it, and that's that, and here's what it's good for, and here's how it's good for me, and here's how I can use it. But who is that plant or that tree or that rock as an entity?
Yeah, and how do you find yourself learning what that is? What is communicating with these plants or places look like for you? What's your practices around that?
I think the communication can always be different. And I think that's like kind of retouching back on the categorization of things, is that if I begin to be like, well, this is how the communication looked last time, and if I'm not receiving it in this way, then I'm not communicating or being communicated with. Mm-hmm. So I think it always looks different, and maybe it's more subtle than other times, and maybe it's more direct in other ways. Like kind of like you were saying, you were with the pine tree and you're climbing the pine tree, and you're connecting with the spirit of your inner child and the child in you that connected with land, and then you looked down and here's this antler. You know, I personally think that there's something really beautiful to that, and maybe that's one communication style, and it'll look different next time. And I think I can get attached to things like that. I'm like the direct sign of like being in the pine tree and then coming down and finding the antler or a feather or a...
To me, it's a bit of a reminder that nature, everything is communicating with us. It's like, okay, listen, and it communicates in a beautiful way. It's like everything is a mirror, and nature is perfect in the way that it's speaking to me, just grounds me, brings me confidence and clarity. So when I'm in a place of like, oh my God, I'm a little angsty, buzzy, and I don't have some great tinctures around, I'm like, I just go into nature. I just go move in nature, and just the visuals, the the way that that nature looks brings me into a good rhythm, but being able to interact with it, and I bring intention to my interaction, especially with trees at the moment. I've got just, I was sharing, I'll gather sap to smudge out of pine, cedar, juniper, and I will trim the trees. They really like that. I'll make them offerings of water. I'll ask to pray with them, and I'll pray with them, ask for their support and whatever's there for me. Yeah, they like to be climbed. They like to be shared. I'll then take that smudge, that sap, and I'm from Chicago, and I'll frequently gift it to family back in Chicago, and then I come back to that forest of trees, and they're like, "Oh, we've got even more for you now." And it's like a relationship that I'm building. I feel and it feels really good.
Yeah, totally. Like revisiting the same tree across time, revisiting the same like sit spot, so to say, where you sit on a park bench, maybe in an urban area, and you're observing the same landscape through different patterns and seasons and cycles of time. It is really special. And I think in the Western world, we've sort of lost our capacity to hold that everything is in dialogue all the time. And so we're like, it's a tree, it's not saying anything. It doesn't feel, it's not a person, but we don't know. We don't know. And I think communication across beings is always so vastly different that to categorize like it's not happening in this one way, and therefore it's not happening at all. It's
not speaking English, so it can't communicate, but we are absolutely, to me, experiences that I've had, it's like, we are all connected. We're all one thing potentially as well. We're all we're all just like these like fractals of love is how I think of it. Like God is love, and we're all just like little mirrors of love. And yeah, I've experienced my connection into trees, into the land, into others, into just kind of like that higher space of love. Yeah, and what has it taken for me to experience that? Sitting with plants, like sacred plants, and like praying with plants, then also just being in meditation or just interacting with a plant over and over and over, and having it like open up and show you. And they're old trees that move very slowly, but I'm like, but they're still moving. They're still like showing things. And what would you say the spirit of our relationship is with plants? Who are plants to people?
Wow, that's a big question.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say.
I think in the Western world, it's often like, if I'm in relation to this being, this thing, what is it giving me?
Yeah.
What is it giving me? And I think that the human connection to plants used to be way more reciprocal. And we understood, maybe even through like seasonal patterns of eating, this grows this time and it's harvested at this time, or its maturation cycle looks like this and it fruits at this point. Like, we had so much more attunement to the rhythm of all life sort of pulsing through this moment of being alive.
Yeah, we weren't getting it all at a grocery store or bottled up.
Totally. And I often think, if I like stood on the street with a microphone, I was like, what can you tell me about when this plant grows, or when to harvest it, or what have you, that most people wouldn't know. And I don't think that comes from this place of humans not wanting to know. I just think that something that started from a good intention, like the agricultural revolution, or humans coming together after being nomadic for so long and being like, you know what, we want to sit down and we want to have more time with each other, and maybe we want to create more safety for ourselves or more security, and we want to start doing other things now. Like, that to me feels like a pure intention, and that people settling down and starting to farm and what have you actually was spawned from a good intention. And nowadays, it just got so warped and monopolized, and in the capitalist West, we don't really allow people to have the time to attune to the rhythms of nature or grow their own garden, because we're on this social clock of I got to get to the 9 to 5, and if I'm working 5, 6, 7 days a week, God forbid, I don't have time to grow my own garden, and therefore I don't know the rhythms of nature and the rhythms and cycles of food and the food that I'm eating. And we've created this complete sort of disconnection, again, probably spawned from a good intention, and I don't think that that is the person's fault, so to say.
So out of good intention, we've created the all this farming and disconnected ourselves from earth in many ways so that we could focus on other things, but it's gotten out of balance to where now we are extremely disconnected. Most people are living in big cities. They don't get to be in nature. We're very lucky to be in Boulder. I'm intentionally in Boulder for a few reasons, but one of them because there's an abundance of nature, like right here in town, and that makes me feel really good. And when I feel really good, I can make decisions from a place of love and inspiration versus like fear and anxiety and like I don't know what I'm going to do. So yeah, what else are you seeing in your clients, maybe from a place of not being connected enough with nature? Does that come up with your clients that they're like, it turns out that they're not really, there's not a lot of nature in their life, and maybe some nature therapy, some nature, just go out in nature? Or how does nature come up in your advice prescription to your clients?
Nature is such a strange word for me, I think, at this point in time, because nature in the now is including this like technological age. And who's to say that that's not nature in some way, or that, the consciousness of AI or the internet isn't silica gaining traction and expressing itself and learning through us, a carbon-based consciousness. I definitely think that being in Boulder County, there's a really specific demographic that comes to the table of alternative medicine. Kind of want to touch back on that too. To expand on that, we are now labeling plants as alternative medicine, which almost touches on the whole thing, like the whole disconnection piece or picture for me, is that we evolved alongside plants. We evolved alongside their medicinal uses, and plants who have weathered millions, if not more, years of evolution to sort of learn to interact with their environment in a specific way through a specific pattern of constituents or through like different physical attributes and appearances. We've evolved alongside those beings. We have not really evolved alongside modern medicine for that long. And of course, modern medicine in this day and age is essentially like compounding extrapolated parts of plants, constituents of plants. And we're now calling, the thousands of years of evolving alongside a group of beings an alternative practice.
I think that's a great thing for people to be reminded of, is that we've had thousands of years relationship with these plants, like working together. It's like these plants, the more we eat these plants, the more we plant them, the more we care for them. It's in the plant's best interest to be in partnership with us many times as well. So we've learned how to work with each other. I think a great example is the hemp plant, maybe the longest relationship that I'm aware of a plant and human. And we have a whole endocannabinoid system that is like lock and key, able to receive many of the benefits of that plant. And then it can make everything from food and medicine to clothing. It's just like, whoa, there's so many ways to work with many of these plants. These plants aren't just like, it's not like a new thing. It's like we've been in deep relationship for a very long time, and they know how to work with us, and we've lost a lot of the knowledge on how to work with them. And a lot of, I think most modern day medicine is derived from these plants in a way where it can be patented and then sold for a lot of money.
Yeah, the sold aspect, I think, is quite a sad piece. And, herbalism used to be in the hands of the masses. you didn't have to be a physician to practice herbalism. And you don't now, but I think in the West we have this idea of, if I'm not an expert on it, I can't do it. I better outsource that. You know, but even not that long ago, even 2 generations ago, people were even more in touch with growing their own food, and therefore had applications for these plants that they observed and cultivated relationships with and experimented with. And it didn't have to be so like shiny in the white coat to empower yourself through food sovereignty, empower yourself through, you know, even like the smallest possible kitchen herbal first aid kit. And I think that is a huge pulse of my mission and how I want to practice is when a client comes in to see me, I want to talk about how they can interact with the world and interact through this cultivation of relationship to the plants that they're utilizing. Because it's one thing for me to be like, okay, here you go, and I can know that this formula will work on so many different levels and tissue states and, you know, patterns and so forth. But if a person doesn't have connection to these plants or any context or any imagery or story or something that's not so sterile as like, here is this extraction of herbs in a bottle, go take it. If they don't have context to these plants, how is that creating relationship to place, relationship to yourself, relationship to the greater world, relationship to all who have walked before you in your lineage? If we're also using herbs that we don't biochemically recognize, I think that that's also beautiful and so powerful in a way to explore these new terrains biochemically. But what were the traditional foods and the traditional herbs of my ancestors, of your ancestors, of the ancestors of my client? And, you know, in the Western world, it's almost a privilege to know where we come from and still have this innate knowledge or direct connection to traditional lifeways of our ancestors or of our lineage, because we've lost so much connection to eldership and therefore stewardship and therefore kind of everything, in my opinion.
Yeah, so would part of your work be to understand your client's lineage and then prescribe or recommend different herbs based on just where they're from, where their family's from? Is there a benefit to that?
I think that there's a great benefit to that. Again, I think that that is almost a unique privilege in our society.
I've never even heard of that. That makes a lot of sense. It's like, okay, if my family's mostly from like Ireland and Britain, it's like, well, what type of herbs did they have? And so that means like, what type of herbs did that family, that my lineage co-evolve with? Is that part of it?
Totally.
Like, hey, they've for maybe many generations, they've worked with these types of herbs. And so I'm born from that, and I might have a slightly more positive experience with it, with those types of herbs from that my great grandparents worked with than somebody that didn't have great grandparents around those types of herbs.
Totally, because those people were singing with those plants probably for a very, very long time. I'm not going to assume how long your ancestors were residing in that place, but you know, before we came over on this way to this side of the pond, people were pretty localized, or there was a much slower form of travel if we traveled, and therefore a much slower, more connected, if I can say that, relationship to plants and to place and to your environment. So much more awareness. So I think that I guess with my clients, if they're able to come in and shed at least a little bit of light on that, I would love to work with that. And if they don't know, you know, I think listening to somebody long enough, you can start to hear pieces of their story and string them together. And if someone comes to me with a story of, I don't really know herbs, but my grandmother had potted rosemary by her door, and so I would always go to her house and like touch the rosemary and smell my hands. Like, that is already so much more context, and that person has a direct relationship to that plant through story, through their grandmother. Maybe their grandmother, comes from somewhere where rosemary is used pretty widely historically. And so they're in touch with their lineage through that potted rosemary plant at their grandmother's door, even if she lives in an apartment complex.
And so that rosemary might be something that you bring into your formulation because there's already context. And if there's context, is there magnified benefit?
I personally believe that there is magnified benefit through context. I guess I will expand in a way of like, if rosemary is not indicated, maybe I can find another way to incorporate whatever context is coming forth into their protocol, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Taking something like a tincture where you get to smell it and taste it and like see the color of it, and is there added benefit to that, to having more of the senses involved and I can like feel it in my mouth versus taking a capsule? Like, how do people get the most benefit out of something?
Personally, I love capsules. I love powders, and I love easy, accessible ways for people to work with plants or work with any sort of healing modality in that way. I do think that there is a lot to speak on the sensory experience and our visual perception of beauty, or our sensory perception of beauty. Maybe, you can't really see the beauty in this formula through the brown bottle and the brown liquid, but when you taste it, there's a synergy or a really palatable profile that is expressing beauty to you. I do like to work a lot visually with beauty and tying in beauty to the sensory experience and then into plant medicine. And really ritualizing a formula, even if it's a tincture in this little brown bottle. How can we bring some aspect of ritual to the healing practice as well?
And what might that look like? What are some ones that you recommend?
I really love creating beauty from whatever is readily available on the land. And again, everyone's perception of beauty varies, and everyone's description of beauty varies. But to me, maybe it's organizing pine cones in some way and sitting in a really sort of like slow and reflective container. Maybe I only have 5 minutes, but there's something to just slowing down in the time and space that you do have, even if it's not being able to meditate for 6 hours straight. Like, how can we work with what we do have to bring to the table and the spaciousness and the capacity that we do have? To incorporate beauty and slowness and ritual and reverence into our lives. So for me, sometimes it's just sitting with a cup of tea with my eyes closed and really like widening my perception and my awareness of the world around me, even if I'm not, creating some elaborate tapestry of beauty, or I don't have 10 hours to sit and devote to my craft or to my ritual in whatever capacity that looks like.
I wonder, so I sell products that are freeze-dried microgreens, and my goal is, how do I give the most benefit to the customer? And there's a thought that how can I help them connect more with it? What I'm hearing from you is just to really see the plant, like maybe in its fresh form. I'm giving it to them dry. Like, here's more photos, videos of it fresh. If you can understand it more through the growing cycle, like a time lapse of it, to just like really understand the growing, can that translate? Do you believe that can translate to more benefit to the customer?
I think so. I think so. And
Yeah,
somebody might argue that, and that's totally fine, but that's definitely the approach that I take to myself, to my family and my loved ones, and my work with my clients as well. It's just trying to create more understanding, or just maybe like carve space for more depth in relationship as well. And, speaking to the accessibility, because your microgreens are powdered. Are they powdered?
Some are powdered and some are in whole leaf form.
But what a gift to be able to incorporate that into your kitchen rituals. Even if it's just like tossing together a really quick salad. The ritual of like garnishing your salad with something that you know is elevating your meal, your ritual, your practice, and then elevating, you know, your mind, body, spirit connection as well. And I really love to work with folks through the access point of the kitchen, because, you know, through my client work, through my own practice, through even just like chatting with people, clients or not, or with my family members, it seems that the kitchen and kitchen therapeutics, herbs in the kitchen, spices in the kitchen, is still like what is sort of intact in the Western world. It's like, I know rosemary, I know how it smells, and I know what it looks like because it sits in a little jar in my spice cabinet. So I really love working with people and working on the forefront of accessibility through the kitchen. Even if you're not an elaborate cook, or you don't cook every meal, or maybe it's not, you know, like the pulse of what you want to do in the world is be in the kitchen and cook food for yourself, there's always a way to meet somebody there. And I think if it's accessible and it's easy to incorporate, that's a really beautiful way to meet people. Not everybody wants to spend, you know, an hour decocting an herbal formula for themselves. And rightfully so. We don't really offer that much grace or that much space for people to do that in the Western world. Whereas a ritual like that, touching on that slowness and that care and that preparation, might still be pretty intact in a lot of other cultures around the world, especially in Eastern medicine.
I believe health starts in the kitchen, and you can't outrun a bad diet, and that the healthiest food that I eat is in my kitchen. You know, you go out to even, I don't know, say a really high-end Italian restaurant, their olive oil is cut with seed oils or vegetable oils, and it's just like there's all this, you know, there's pressure to make money, and the bad ingredients are being snuck in everywhere, not into my home. Yeah, just really being with the whole process and really being in like the prayer of it as well. I think there's a reason that so many cultures pray. I think that magnifies the benefits of the food, and then being of gratitude for the farmers and all the people in that land, and all the way to getting to me, and how may that lift me up so I can then help lift others up. And it's like there's a really beautiful prayer in the kitchen and dance with the kitchen. So that's something I really enjoy. And it's like, how do you make good food? You just get really good ingredients. And I'm, you know, blessed to live in Colorado or Boulder, where we have a lot of like really high quality local farms. We're able to source, you know, easily through our farmers markets and through CSAs and things like that. But it's like, man, I don't think there's a better investment. And it's not that expensive. It's like, okay, this meat is $10 a pound versus Walmart's $5 a pound, but it's like 100 times better. And it's like, what type of anxiety did that animal go through that was farmed for Walmart? And how much does that anxiety transfer into its, you know, into us when we eat it?
Can you speak to that? Like, what's your personal belief system around that?
I think it transfers. I think it really transfers quite a bit, because I've from Costco, which I'm like, that's the most bang for the buck here in the area. It's organic, it's, you know, reasonably priced, seems really high quality, tastes good, it feels good, and I love Costco. I'm like a big fan. And then I've been getting meat from a local farm, Golden Hoof. Do you know them?
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, holy cow! Like eating. I'm pretty new to it. Maybe just like a month, maybe 2 months into it, and get their liver, their like ground organ meats, their yogurt, their like so many things there. Their cheese. It was like, holy cow! The cheese at Costco, that was, I loved it. It was making me all phlegmy and making me kind of like angsty. And I was like, but they get the best stuff when it comes to buying, you know, huge truckloads worth of it. But it's like, I don't know how much more Golden Hoof is. Maybe it's twice as expensive, but there's no like side effects. There's no, I don't have any negative from it. I just feel like uplifted versus like maybe sustained, maybe actually taken down. I have no idea what the animals went through in that, even through an organic way, through like one of the best retailers in the country. It's like, I think those animals had a really challenging life. And then these animals on like a Golden Hoof local farms, like they lived a pretty good life, way above average on these, industrialized, just like meat factories. It's like, it's quite sad what we put all those animals through. So I would say energetically, it's lifted me up significantly. It just tastes so much better. And then I've been enjoying making meals from those ingredients and sharing with others. And it's like, others can feel the shift. It's like, it's not that expensive. This costs $20 to make this. It's not that expensive to invest in really good food. But I'm not sure that everyone has access to it, or how do you get access to just really high quality meat in particular. I wonder for vegetables. I mean, organic vegetables, they're without herbicides, pesticides, fertilizers. They're without these things. Like, that's how I grow mine. There's nothing that touches it except for clean air, water, and light. The women that grow it are like angels that are around it all the time. They love it so much. It's in soil. It's in a greenhouse. It's under the sun. It's like as much love can be put into these plants as possible, and all the way through. It's like how much like love with them. I wonder that for these plants, say like how to compare it. Certainly a plant that's covered in herbicides and pesticides, that's a sad plant, and you're probably doing something that's closer to life shortening by eating that plant than life extending. But I wonder, like, organic carrot versus organic carrot. One carrot that grew up next to a road or in the middle of a town, and one that grew up some beautiful life out in the middle of a field. I wonder the energetic difference of what these plants can be. Do you have any sense on that? Maybe in the same way that I'm saying for the meat, how that energy is kind of like transferred to us?
Totally. I can really only speak from experience and my own belief system. But I think, kind of touching back on that emptiness statement of like, who are we when we are empty? Because I think the minute that we put a carrot into our mouth, we're also becoming that carrot. And that carrot is moving through us. And,
but we forget that.
But we are totally
what we
forget.
Eat.
We are what we eat. And I think that the energetics of food, the energetics of place, interacting with the energetics of this organism, especially like how that translates across so many different individuals, it's just... It's just a mess in the Western world. It's a mess. We've lost connection, and I'm not going to speak for everybody. I know there's so many people out there doing really beautiful work and education and so forth. But as a whole society, we don't really acknowledge these subtleties and these energetics of people and place and food and so forth. It's just like, what can I get right now so I can eat it in the car on the way to the job or on the way to this? Or it's just this kind of like rushing around thing. So when you were asking, like, maybe people don't have access points to this food that was grown with love and care and definitely maybe within a certain radius of where they're from, I don't think most people know that going to Walmart and getting that food is not in their best interest, not in their highest expression of plant or animal or themselves. And that just makes me have so much compassion for the world that, like, oh, what a privilege, unfortunately, it is to live in an area where there's so much farm-grown, organic, if that's still even a thing, food. Yeah, it just makes me really, really feel for folks.
Yeah, and what can those folks do? I think it starts with education and awareness that there is better food out there. I think it's tricky because having kind of grown up a little bit in a world where I was eating a good amount of processed food. It's just like food is food, calories are calories. It's like, no, not all calories are the same. The calories of a chip of Doritos is a lot different than the calories of a local chicken. It's a lot different calories, and what that and how our body's amazing that it's like, yeah, I can survive off of just Doritos. The body's just like, well, we'll figure it out, but it's going to be a mess.
Life is so tenacious.
It's like we could do it, but it's going to get a little weird. Let's try to put some vegetables in there. Yeah, what can people do? I think it's become aware. I think there's a lot of companies showing up that like Wild Pastures. We have Wild Pastures restaurant here in Boulder, and then they also have a meat delivery part of their business where they will ship you frozen regenerative organic meat. What's that mean? It's better for the land, it's better for the animal, it's better for the employees and the people, and you have to be USDA organic to be regenerative organic. So it's like a whole nother tier of cleanliness and goodness. And regenerative organic is massively on the rise. My company, Be Micro, we're certified regenerative organic, and that's like it feels like quite a accomplishment and an undertaking. But it's like 2 years ago, there was maybe only 100 products that were regenerative organic certified. Now this year, there's over 1,000 products. So it's like growing very quickly. People really want that. And so maybe look for those things. It does come with a additional price because now we're, to qualify, we pay our employees more, our suppliers more. There's investment into land and supportive infrastructure around these, around even animals. Even though we don't touch animals, there's still like a thought into that on the land that this is all worked on. But invest in food that's regenerative organic if you can. I mean, people that are having worked in this field for 6 years now and knowing like a lot of local farmers, like a lot of these guys aren't even making money. Like Golden Hoof, it's like, are they making money? Maybe just barely. And even it's just like they're
not making enough for the quality of food and care that they're putting into the world.
So these people are doing it from like a place of love. Like there's so much love. It's like, support these people. That's who really deserve the support, and they will support you. They're giving everything. Sometimes it's it's an unequal trade where they're actually losing to be able to bring these really high quality products to market. It's amazing the cost and the commitment it takes for these entrepreneurs, founders to bring such like a clean, healthy product to market. And there's a reason why there's so many companies where it's just like, this is just processed garbage that's got a 6-year shelf life, and it's like it's cheap and doesn't go bad, and they can make it in third world countries with anyhow, support local.
Totally. Totally. And how is that consumption determining who we are on this stage of life? I had no education as a child. I grew up on Lunchables like every other kid from 1990 whatever, and ate the heck out of processed foods. And bless my parents' hearts, they were doing the best they can with the money that they had to spend and the education that they had. But I think food and the quality of our food and the vitality, the expression behind our food, how it was grown, how that animal or that plant was cared for, what it was fed, we're becoming all of those things. And I think when that light bulb went off for me in my own head, the way that I was able to show up to the world and be like, who would this person be if they did have, if the luxury, I hate to call it that, but it almost is that in the modern age, if they had the luxury to eat vital food, how much would their expression change? How much would their emotional landscape change? And the way that they interface with the world, how would that change? And that makes me have a lot more grace and compassion and care for the world in today's modern age, where it can be kind of hard. It can be really hard to be a person in the world with all these distractions and all this busyness and all of this, sort of seeing people as numbers in some capacity, and this complete disconnection between you and your neighbor, you and your community. I think that disconnect is such a translation from the disconnection of food and from the disconnection of the human spirit to the spirit of the earth and the spirit of the land and so forth. I think they all hold hands.
And the disconnection from ourselves as well.
Totally.
It's like, I think, we're just speaking from the phases of life that I've gone through. I've gone through a phase where it's like intellect is everything, and just be in your head and use that to like, it's our Western culture might value that at like the highest. Like the smarter you are, the more money you can make. But really now I'm more of a building my intuition and like in the prayer, like how can I follow the prayer? How can I be as clean as possible so those prayers can come through in a clean way? When I pray, I hear it, I know it, and I'm listening for intuition, because sometimes God speaks to me in a way where it's just like a wisp of wind. It's like, oh, go this way. I'm like, oh, what's over here? And then some magic emerges. But I think that's the number one way that God speaks to us is through intuition, and that's a skill, an ability, a muscle that I let atrophy, and I believe many people have let atrophy. And it's like that's where the guidance comes from. So how can we connect deeper into our intuition? Does that come up with your clients at all, and how you might help them to fortify, strengthen, or even get in touch with their own intuition? Because that's the truth.
Totally. Yeah, I think a lot of my work really orbits around what is vitalism. And I learned herbalism and Western materia medica, yes, through an herbalism school, but it was founded on these vitalism principles.
And how do you define vitalism for those not familiar?
Yeah, for me in my own practice, and there's probably a lot of different ways to define this and articulate this, but it's acknowledging that there's an innate and intelligent current that is moving through all things, all beings, all animate beings. And it's organizing itself intelligently.
Animate being, what's animate?
You know, all that are alive.
Okay. So like this watch wouldn't qualify, but the tree, the squirrel, that's okay.
I mean, I would extend my own lens of animacy to objects, but in the realm of speaking about vitality and this like pulsing energy, I'm speaking to that which is alive.
Yeah.
That which is alive.
Yeah, I've been practicing widening my lens to, you brought up AI. Like AI is alive, and it comes from natural things. All the computer chips are made from silica and whatever, copper and all these things. It's like that is nature. How is nature woven into that? Okay, so vitality, vitalism, all that is alive, and there's a natural current through that, and that current is being, well, how did you say it, being guided, or it's guiding us?
It organizes itself intelligently. You know, it's like if we get a cut, our white blood cells rush to the scene, and the same thing happens on a tree, or in so many different capacities and so many different expressions of vitality. We're very aware of nature organizing itself accordingly. And I think that intuition is a really big piece in that as well, because of course there's like this voluntary understanding, and then there's this involuntary understanding where we just breathe and we don't know why, but here we are and we're continuing on breathing. And I really love to help my clients create more space. And it's really difficult in today's day and age. It's really hard for me to create space for myself a whole lot of the time. And I often reflect on the idea that how much can we really heal? I'm trying to decide if that's the word I want to use. Yeah, how much can we really heal? How much healing work can we really do if we don't have the space to receive that organized intelligence or that pang of intuition? And I think that everyone has this like beautiful ability to tune in and connect from so many different angles and in so many different beautiful ways, that intuition shows up and looks differently for everybody. And I really love to help people and my clients create space to figure out what that is for them. How does that come through for you? How does it show up for you? How are you guided by these principles and guided by this inner knowing or this inner compass?
What would you say some common themes are for your clients on how intuition comes through, how maybe that evolves from a place of like, oh, I'm not really in my intuition at all, to hear some rituals, some practices to help open that up. Maybe on average, where are people coming from, and where might they be able to get after a little bit of practice?
I think that it looks different for everybody. It's like a purely individual expression almost. Maybe there's like an archetypal foundation that it oscillates within, but I think for everybody it's different. And in practicing here in the Western world, most of the people that show up in my practice are, I mean, again, the patterns always vary, but there's this pretty regular archetype of the like burnt out, stressed out, overworked person.
Is it more men or women that are coming to you?
I think more women historically seek out, I don't want to generalize or like blanket anything, but I think in my practice, it's more women that show up to the table.
Why do you think that is?
I think women, and maybe this is social or like something that could be observed socially, have this ability, and it's acknowledged also, that so that affirms the ability to tune in or to ask for help, to seek out care. I don't think that that's something that's like very widely regarded or validated for men. It's like, no, you just gotta keep on
muscle
going.
through it.
And
Yeah, what are you, a wimp?
Rub some dirt on it.
Yep.
And you know, it's like, even in my own family constellation, the amount of times that I've been like, you know, dad or uncle or grandpa, like, you know, what if we maybe gently nudging them in a direction of, let's try this. It's like, no, you know, I got it. I'm fine. It's just the way that it is. And I kind of have to just like tough it out and suffer through it. You know, and of course, like they're of a particular generation. Maybe that's not the same for men now, but I think patterns sort of die hard. You know, it's going to take a long time for us to phase out of that one. But for women, it's a lot maybe more validated to seek out care and to ask for help and to be vulnerable with somebody. To be in a room in a 2-hour intake session, sitting across from one another, like, can be incredibly vulnerable. And maybe you don't always know what's going to come through or why you're even there in the first place. But I think that archetype of the burned out, stressed out, fatigued person, to offer them slowness. Sometimes we need permission. Sometimes I need permission. I'm like, I'm so busy and I have all these things to do, and I can recognize that it's crazy to live that way. Yet we've normalized it. And sometimes I even need someone to be like, okay, like what if we slowed down for a second? Like, what would that look like if you just took 3 huge deep belly breaths and allowed yourself to just be, and not measure yourself on this scale of productivity or, you know, what you have or you don't have or how fast you're going. Or I think that's a really powerful practice. And powerful gift to receive or to give somebody is the permission to slow down.
What's an invitation or even request that you might give any of the guys that are listening?
Well, men, I'm sure it looks different for all of you, you know, and I think in Boulder County we live in a kind of a bubble of the male or of the masculine. But I guess even to like all men of the world, to go that far, like you have permission to slow down and to rest, and you don't have to fight so hard to prove yourself or fight so hard to make your mark on the world. I feel like that's a big undercurrent that runs through or underneath the Western, you know, male. You know, I have to make my mark on the world and I have to be successful in this way, and here's how I'm quantifying that, and here's how I'm measuring that. And is that really what the world needs more of? Maybe.
And yeah, and being part of that, you know, having a business and having being involved in other businesses, having just started this podcast. I'm really enjoying this podcast because it is like spacious time. I'm like, oh wow, this is interesting. I'm like, we'll just flow, and I'm finding my way with it too. I'm like, what's my style? I'm each time I'm trying like something a little bit different. I'm like, how to do this. I'm like, I'll just trust the process, and I'll just try something new every time. But I'm like, wow, there's so much spaciousness in the preparation of it. I get to, spend that kind of time. I'm like, oh, and it's still work. I'm still working. I'm still building something, but I'm building something that allows me to be slower. I have a couple of friends that are massage therapists, and they're like, we specifically chose this career path because it forces us to be slow. No one wants a massage where you're running around going full speed massage. It's like, that's kind of crazy. It's like just like really working in a slow way, and choosing that path of or life of just kind of just slow down.
This podcast is brought to you by B Micro, organic freeze-dried microgreens for easy, everyday nutrition. Sprinkle them on any meal and enjoy the benefits. Shop now at bmicro.farm and use PLANT15 to save 15% off your next order.
I see for me, part of the drive for like success is external recognition and like validation. And where does that come from? There's some things like being noticed and appreciated and loved by my parents. That's part of it. Stories of like not enoughness, of like, oh, I've got to prove myself that I'm smart enough, or I'm strong enough, or I'm like all these things. I got to overcome it and let the world tell me like, yeah, you did it. And then I'm like, I did it. It's like, okay, that's all a trap. And yet it's still in me, still unwinding it. But it's like where to move from. I've just really try to move from that place of love and inspiration and just what feels good, like follow the inspiration first. That's like, that to me, that is God whispering like, this is the way, and then these different signposts happen along the way. Something like an antler will show up and it'll just be like, it's like, oh, this is it. Or I'll get moved to some like great emotion. Like if I get moved to tears almost about something, I'm like, oh, that's like my soul like screaming like, yes, this is it. Pay attention to this. So what might I say is just try to uncover. For me, it's been trying to uncover the parts of me that are like, I'm not enough, like these young parts that just haven't, that were wounded and didn't get to like really grow up as fast as these other parts of me, and just like, hey, you are loved, you are enough, you're perfect right where you're at, nothing is wrong, nothing has to look a certain way, and you don't need anyone's approval. And really, like, besides like your mom and your dad, like nobody even cares about you. Like, don't even worry about it. Just do what feels good for you, and try not to get yourselves in any kind of traps where you become like indebted to this crazy system that you could become a slave to.
Was designed for you to fail.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It was designed. Yeah, it seems like it. It's like, how come they're not teaching us how to do anything that's worthy of anything?
Why don't we know how to grow food? Why is that not in the education system?
Yeah, I took 80 math classes. I'm like, who cares? Let me use my calculator. Like, nope, you need to. It's like, I'm like, well, what about my finances? What about how to talk to people?
Yeah.
What about how to just like conflict, like resolution? Like, it's like, we didn't teach. I'm like, you guys didn't really teach us much.
No.
How come?
I just feel like we place so much emphasis on the individual in this culture. And, we're notoriously the individualist society. And so, of course, we're all out here. It doesn't matter if you're man, woman, anyone in between, just a human being in this society. We all want to make our mark on the world and express our individual uniqueness and have that be seen by the world and actualize ourselves. And I think that this constant hamster wheel dialogue within of, I have to be first and I have to be productive and I have to be successful in this way, and here's how that's measured, not by just me, mom, and dad, but by society. And most of the world doesn't operate that way. And in fact, that way of operating is very
looked down
colonizer.
Upon.
Very, just needs to kind of find its way to phase out. And I mean, we're probably a very long way, knock on whatever, that comes sooner than later. But you travel to any other part of the world, I feel like, aside from, maybe like Great Britain or the British Isles, most people have this established sense of slowness and care for one another. I was just in Mexico visiting one of my dear friends who lives there and just had a baby, and the level of collective care as a collectivist culture. You know, she's walking around with her baby. Everyone wants to praise this baby, to care for this child, you know, and at least in the part of Mexico that I was in, there were children running around the market, and they almost seemed cared for by everybody there. There was this neighborly, community oriented, you know, vibe that everyone's just looking out for each other. Yeah. And we're allowing this sense of slowness. There's not so much pressure on the individual. Yeah. Even seeing people like be able to take a load off for a couple hours in the afternoon and sleep in the heat. And it's a hard bubble to look outside of when you're so in it. Maybe Boulder County has its own privilege or something in that way.
I just think the cost of life is what also keeps people moving so quickly. It's like, oh, you want to live in somewhere like Boulder County. It's like tremendously expensive to live here. You know, it's like an artificial island. There's only so many houses and apartments that they can build here. So it's like, okay, well, if I want to live here, it's like, man, I got to work like all the time, or I've got to start taking out debt. Now I'm kind of trapped in these ways. And how do you even get out of debt for a lot of people? That's a bit of a mind game.
Like what we have is not enough. We always need more.
That's how we're marketed. Everything, the new everything. It's like the iPhone 16 is the same as the iPhone 13.
Yeah.
Is the 2025 Ford Mustang's the same as the 2020. It's like this stuff's like all kind of the same, but you got to have the newest. You got to have the newest. And for me, when I've been a part of that trap, it's like, yeah, there's interest in curiosity in the newest things. I'm like, the new stuff is cool, but it's a little bit of a show of like, oh, look at this. I got this new thing. What do you guys think of that? Now am I accepted? Now am I cool? Now am I? And my friends now that are, that I think the most of, like, nobody cares about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
No one's asking about it. Like if I bring it up, they're like, yeah, tell me about the new whatever you got. But I'm not, it's like, yeah, my phone's 10 years old. I don't know what to think about it.
Yeah, I think it really highlights how much in this culture we just dispose of everything. It's like, oh, this cup's not good enough anymore for whatever reason.
That's from the Salvation Army.
Yeah, gotta get a new one. And you know, there's so much like regenerative practice in that, like going thrifting and seeing the personality and the just like inherent sentimentality in everything. It's like, maybe I used this cup for 12 years. Do I really need to dispose of it? How can I recycle it into a new form? Maybe, you know, I'll just poke some holes in the bottom and plant something in it, or use it for something else. Maybe it will hold my toothbrush. You know, it doesn't have to be plant focused, but I think we're just so focused on, even if we're not aware of it, disposing of everything. People and relationships and places and objects and clothing, rather than being like, this is a good cotton shirt and it came from this person and I'm gonna mend it, instead of getting rid of it and getting a new one. And I think that really touches on the animate world for me also. Is it's like, what is my relationship to objects? You know, what is my relationship to the less than human? How can I recycle things into new forms on a grander stage, rather than constantly dispose and consume more of? The world doesn't need any more of that. And it's really easy to do, and we're taught that it's okay. You know, it's not to demonize people at all. We're all just doing the best we can. I generally, you know, pretty much believe that. Even if we're doing something wicked, you know, lack of awareness, or what are they eating, and like what's being expressed through them, you know, like we're so much more than just the individual. We're singing the song of a landscape. It's being sung through us. We're singing the song of food. It's being sung through us. We're where our relationship to the non-human is being sung through us. So I think, you know, when we sit in the cubicle and we're under the LED light and we're just constantly touching this synthetic world, that it's even more easy to dispose of everything and get a new version of it. And I think that cascades into pathology, and that a lot of what we see in alternative medicine or probably, you know, within the psychotherapeutic model here in the United States, you know, we place so much emphasis on the individual, like, oh, what are you going through? What are your problems? But what if it's also like you interacting with that LED light every day?
Mm-hmm.
How is that expressing itself through you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I put a lot of emphasis on that in my own world without being puritanical, or try to not be puritanical.
Of what? Of the things that you surround yourself with? That's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm under this LED light for 12 hours a day.
Mhm.
Maybe this thing is actually slowly poisoning me.
Totally.
Maybe my plastic shirt is poisoning me. Maybe
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that we have to be so aware of these things. How can these things even be allowed to be brought into market? Things that are harmful for us. And I think it goes to the conspiracy that, you know, there's powers that be that want us to be kind of sick and dumb and just follow along and not be strong and be like, hey, maybe there's a different way. It's like, no, we want to keep it this way because this is the way that we make all the money and really just kind of control you.
Totally. The Western world is set up to profit off of the suffering of the masses.
Yeah.
And we've normalized that.
Mm-hmm.
We've normalized that from everything, household cleaners to clothing to baby toys to bedding to food. Like the web is woven so wide. Yeah. You almost can't even digest all of it.
Well, yeah, we're being attacked from every angle. I wonder, let's give people some simple tips. One that came up for me lately is on my iPhone. I have a slow-mo setting for video. Mm-hmm. And if you do slow-mo on any of your lights for 2-3 seconds, and then you play it back, if you could see that light like flickering, mm-hmm. then that's like a light that it's harmful to your nervous system. Mm-hmm. That's what we might see with some of these LEDs. But if the light is staying steady and there's no flicker, that's a better light for you. Mm-hmm. I've also installed a bunch of red lights into my home to where at night, if I'm turning lights on, it's mostly just red lights. And mm-hmm. I have these like red light lanterns too that I move around. And and then I rise with the sun most days, and that's really helpful to me as well. So I'm trying to not be, right now we're under like the most intense lights that we'll be in, but I haven't done the test on these lights. I'm hoping they're good. Mm-hmm. But what are some tips that we can give people maybe around how do you think about the clothing, or how do you think about washing your clothes, or mm-hmm. what are some other maybe simple tips where people can look to add more good things in so some of these harmful things can just start to fall by the wayside?
Yeah. I almost feel like a little hesitancy to speak on it. Again, kind of touching on this aspect of like privilege or luxury almost to buy the detergent that doesn't have all of the, you know, like cancer-causing chemicals in it costs $4 more or something. And I do think that there's a way to empower yourself within the home. And there's a deep sense of empowerment of making your own products. Experimenting. Like the human spirit, I think, wants to experiment and mm-hmm. has evolved on experimentation.
And wants to be connected with nature.
I think something that has really helped me is thrifting my clothes. Mm-hmm. And that makes it more cost effective and affordable. And it helps me find pieces that feel really unique and maybe have a little bit more of like the human spirit encoded in it, because it's not from, you know, some factory in China.
Yeah. They've been lived in, they've been like loved, they've been enjoyed. Like there's some energy, there's something more in it.
Totally. I think the same thing goes for, like, hopefully no one from IKEA is listening to this, the furniture that we can buy in a store, you know, like how sterile our environment has become, how sterile the expression of our craft has come. And, you know, you can go to IKEA and you can get the desk and it's really affordable, and you go home and there's like 2 steps to set it up. But what is your sensory experience to this? What is your relationship to this object? How is this object interacting with you, and so forth? So I think just doing our best to find objects, to find ways to connect back to that more soulful place. Like, I would much rather go to a thrift store or to an antique store maybe, or to Goodwill, and find a little desk that, you know, was made a long time ago by somebody, and maybe it's stained and maybe like the drawer's all weird and wobbly, but it has more of that sort of soulful nature, and that's just what I would want to invite into my own home and my own life. And I will say, like, I think these sort of philosophies and these sort of ways of approaching the world can become very puritanical. I remember when I first started, you know, diving into health as a blanket word, it felt really puritanical. It's like, oh God, like this is 100% rayon, or this face wash has blah, blah, blah cancer-causing agent in it. And it just becomes, it almost made me like kind of fearful of the world.
Yeah, what does puritanical mean?
Kind of just like everything has to be perfect and clean, or like I can't interact with it. I can't touch it. It can't enter my body. It can't be on me. And of course, like that ripples out into so many different domains, I think. But there's this almost like cleanliness that comes with it. And I'm at this place in my life where I'm like, all right, it's a 2 on EWG. Like, you know, there's an app or a website where you can look up the ingredients of something and how clean they are or how toxic they are, and it will rate it on a sort of spectrum. And, you know, I think I live my life like 90% like, cool, I'm interacting with natural fibers and with man-made desks or whatever it is. And the other 5% of the time, like, we live in a crazy world. This environment, all environments, crazy. I'm going to be interfacing with dirty things, whether I like it or not. And so how can I fortify myself in a way, tonify myself in a way, and also mentally to be like, okay, I'm doing the best I can. So I'm equipped enough to deal with the 5% of the bad. The bad. You know, it's like such a silly way of putting it, but I try not to be too strung out about that stuff, because that's a full-time job.
Yeah, that you can go too hardcore and make yourself crazy.
Yeah, or not want to interface with the world because you're afraid it's not the purest form of something.
Yeah, you're living from a place of fear, not this place of free, empowered spot. Yeah, so you're targeting 90%. You're like 90%, I'm on it. That other 10% is just life happening, and I can't help it that this store has got these kind of lights, or this is the kind of water that I'm getting at this restaurant or whatever. I still want to go out and enjoy myself, and because I take care of myself 90% of the way in such a good way, that should counteract that 10% that just shows up and just me going through life.
Totally. And I think life is incredibly adaptable. And, you know, it's like, I'm a kid who grew up on Lunchables and bunny bread and a bunch of other things, and I'm still here and I'm fine. And, you know, it's also just remembering that as well. Like, life is tenacious and it wants to move forward. And I think as modern people, you know, like the focal point I want to move towards is I am doing the best that I can. And I really love to bring that into my client sessions as well. Like, just do the best that you can, and that is enough.
Have you read the 4 agreements?
A long time ago.
Yeah, and that's one of the agreements, the last agreement, do the best that you can. I think those are great tenets to live by. So for those that haven't read it or want a reminder, it is, don't take things personally. That's the hardest one for me. Don't make assumptions. Always tell the truth, don't lie, and always do your best. And it's like, if you can just bring those 4 into your life, it will transform your life. And like that's tenants within my company, tenants, for me personally, within many of the relationships around me. It's a great language to be able to share with someone, a partner, a business partner, whoever. Highly recommend that book. And then that will, you can read the whole book in like 2 hours. I've listened to it many times.
Totally.
Really. Which one's the hardest for you?
Maybe don't make assumptions. I'm oscillating between that and don't take things personally. But I think it is more the assumption piece. Like assuming something about the world or something about a person or something about why that person is the way they are.
When's the last time you were humbled by that? You made an assumption. You're like, well, that
yesterday.
was... Yeah, right. For me too.
Probably yesterday. Yeah, and just really like inviting the medicine of humility in all the time has been a big one for me over this past year, I think, as well. Like, what are the ways in which I could be humbled further?
Yeah, that's for myself. There was a time I was in corporate America. I thought I was like just like real hot stuff, and my ego was out of control, and my health was not that good either. There was drinking, a lot of kind of fast food, traveling, hotels, airports, that kind of way. I was not in a healthy way, and that's part of what brought me, like a pendulum, brought me into like searching for a path of health for myself, and to then share with other people. Yeah, has there been a moment, like kind of like a aha moment within you that you're like, okay, now I'm going to go into maybe this path of herbalism, this path of being of helping people with their own path? When did that kind of like light bulb moment come on for you?
I think so. My grandma, Nana, who I was speaking to earlier, she's a psychotherapist. I think from a very young age, I felt these like really synonymous threads with her. I personally hold the belief that we have some parameters that we are born within. Of course, like how we navigate this sort of blueprint, so to say, is up to our own will, but the blueprint is laid. And, maybe even in like an interstellar way. Have you seen that movie?
Oh, love that
Matthew
movie.
McConaughey.
One of the best movies, yeah.
I really think like that sometimes, and I was thinking about that in regards to your antler. It's like, there's so many unseen forces and so much that we don't understand, and maybe we'll never be able to.
Not even meant to understand.
And that's the point. And, we can get so looped out on trying to understand it, but it's like, maybe you from however time works. Right now, I currently believe that it's, for me, moving in some sort of like spiral fashion rather than some linear form. But I've always felt like I was going to be in a healing profession in some way or another as a part of my blueprint. My grandmother is a psychotherapist, has been for a really long time. So I was gently encouraged down this path of psychotherapy, becoming a psychotherapist. And in 2020, the height of COVID, I was kind of like living back and forth in London, and I got accepted to a Jungian psychoanalytic master's degree. And I was really excited about it. I think I was like very much in this like cerebral landscape of myself, just this like, I have to be the smartest and I have to be stimulated in this way or I'm not going to learn. Whatever it was like my soul calling, but it was kind of being matched at a weird point in the timeline with something that didn't fully feel like it, if that makes sense. And my sister was living in Colorado at the time, in Fort Collins, going to CSU. And I came to visit her, and we had been around a bunch of herbalists and like different folk healers in that year during quarantine in a really unique circumstance. But I didn't have a ton of exposure to herbalism in this way. A little bit more like folk-like, a little bit more like you buy your tea bags from the store of chamomile or whatever. But I came to visit her, and I heard of the school, kind of like you were saying, like this little whisper of God. I heard that there was an herbalism school in Lafayette. Okay, what does that entail? What does that mean? What does that look like? What are they doing? And kind of just realized like the piece that I was missing, even from that Jungian philosophy and that background and that degree, the piece that I was missing was this very like earth-centric view of people and place. This very like less individually important. And I was like, wow, seeing people in this light of patterns and stories and subtleties and energetics, and how that holds hands with plants and how plants hold hands with the human spirit, just touched so much more on the heartbeat of why I'm here, of the essence of what I want to do and how I want to show up in the world. And I think it was a lot to drive myself away from this very heady intellectual degree and path, but kind of like you were saying, like you kind of, I don't know, have to go in a different direction and go really fast in order to go slow. And that is way more integrated, a way more integrated view of how I see the world and how I see myself helping people, rather than, and I'll sing praise for psychotherapy all day in a way, and the power that has to help people. But I think a more integrated way for me is through this gateway of the natural world and connecting people back to that place, rather than just being like, here you are, the individual, and based on your pathologies, I would say you're depressed and anxious and all of these things, and now I'm going to send you to a psychiatrist so that they can prescribe you some medication for that. It's like, I want to know why. I want to know more of the why. Like, maybe that person's highly depressed because they sit in their cubicle all day and they only eat processed food, and they go home and they're overworked, exhausted, and maybe underappreciated, and they're not in some sort of vocation. They're not in living their life in this way of like, this is my soul calling. Maybe they have no time with their family. Maybe they don't have a family. How are all these compounding variables coming together to present as this pathology, rather than just like, yep, this is what you are, this is a part of your identity now, and now you're going to take this medication because this is just who you are.
Yeah, because I'm a white lab coat doctor, and I only have 10 minutes
10
with
minutes
each patient.
with you.
Yeah, and it's just like all I've learned was pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
And I don't have enough time to look at your whole life and understand anything about you.
No, because we go,
I've got 5 options of things I can offer you. And which one of these 5, boom, who's next?
I don't have 2 hours to listen to your story. And I don't even like demonize doctors for that. I just demonize the system.
The system was created that way, yeah.
And how that's cascaded, maybe even from, the original good intention. So I don't know, there was just a huge disconnect for me. And I think Jungian philosophy and all of those teachings are so beautiful, and I resonate with so many of them, but none of them were putting my hands in the dirt.
Yeah.
And none of them were allowing me this space to connect with people over that, and to really hear their story, and to really gain this insight and understanding into who they are. It's like part of my job is problem solving, and is recognizing patterns and pathologies, and being able to weave plants in, and maybe even, dive into some really rigorous science. But an even larger part of my job is just showing up to listen. And it's so undervalued in today's day and age, just the power of listening. And I think for a lot of people to show up to the psychotherapeutic model, to show up to a therapist's office, and have an hour or 50 minutes of their time, why is that our only place to drop in and be vulnerable and have somebody listen? And yeah, I think that if you give somebody long enough, they'll tell you exactly what is wrong with them and why.
So what might that be an offering to those listening right now? How might they be that listener to someone else? It's interesting. I'm learning so much about myself doing this podcast and like
Mhm.
being engaged in the listening
Mhm.
and being in the flow. And sometimes I just want to be like, oh, I'm just listening to a podcast right now and I don't have to even have to engage. And then I'm like, oh, I'm starting to like lose it. I'm starting to like lose the like what you're saying. And it's like, whoa, like I gotta really like lift my energy up and be here with it. And
Mhm.
when I do, yeah, there's just magic here. So how can I be like
Totally.
an active listener? One of the
Mhm.
tips that I was given to be an active listener is repeat back what I've just heard,
Mhm.
and then that forces me to listen. If I'm going to be able to repeat back anything, and people really enjoy the repeating back because then they know that they're being listened to.
Totally.
Most people are like, "Are you even listening to me?" That can
Mhm.
sometimes be an argument that I've had in past with others. Like, "Are you even listening to me?" And I'm like, I can't even say back what you just said. But
Yeah.
with practice, it's gone for me from being able to say just a couple of words to now a couple of sentences. Now
Mhm.
to it's like that's a muscle as well, the
Oh
ability to
yeah.
listen. And I think the greatest way to connect with someone, or maybe one of the easiest ways to connect with someone, is just get really curious.
Mhm.
Ask thoughtful questions. Ask the first, second, third level question. Like try to follow like the thread. Find what's interesting and what other people are interested about and just let them talk.
Totally. Yeah, I think, also I'm just like harping on the Western world. Sorry, Western world.
We're just doing the best we
Yeah, we're
can.
doing the best we can. I mean, I'll speak for myself. Sometimes I don't really want to show up and speak about my burdens, speak about my hardships because I feel like I'm burdening somebody else.
Mm,
So it's almost like, you know, we have to pay somebody to carve out the time to really listen to us because if we're paying them and they're a therapist, then we can kind of lay that belief system down that we're burdening them because there's a reciprocal exchange
yeah,
or
I've
something
given you
maybe.
money. You're a pro. You can
Yeah.
handle it. Here we go.
Yeah, but you can't show up to your best friend and tell them about what you're struggling about because maybe it's too scary or you don't want to like reframe this picture or understanding of yourself through their eyes or maybe there's not enough time. We can't slow down or something.
Yeah, so the burden, there's a burden that many feel that's shown up for me. Like, I'm just going to keep this to myself
Mhm.
because I don't want to put this on somebody else. They're already experiencing enough. And it is interesting. I
Mhm.
go to therapy every week and it's like,
Mhm.
Here we go. But I also bring it into prayer. I find that
Yeah.
just being in prayer allows me to move it. And just in reframing myself, it's like I'm very optimistic for the future, stay in an optimistic like way, like the future is bright and I'm being pulled like a
Mhm.
magnet into a beautiful future that I have a vision for. And then I'm a realist and like, okay, what's happening around me? But how
Yeah.
do we get into gratitude and not just being prayer of like life is so hard and give me like a better life, but of like praying from also a place of gratitude. I think most prayer as I was growing up was like, hey, I need help
Mhm.
versus hey, life is beautiful and great. And then I think we can create our own our you're saying that there's a blueprint. I believe that as well, and that
Mhm.
we get to choose how we react to our path here as well.
Mhm.
I also think that when we share vulnerably, say even just in this space on a podcast, and it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to share that piece of me because for whatever my reasons are, I'm scared to be vulnerable, or I don't
Mhm.
want to put some negativity in the space that other people are going to hear this negativity. When I've done it, other people are like, oh, have expressed like, oh, I'm not alone. Like I feel
Mm.
that too. It's
Mhm.
like we're all kind of feeling the same thing. We're all going through the same thing, and a lot of people are feeling alone. So as we can express this, it's easier to like resonate with someone that's going through a hard time than like,
Mhm.
hey, life, I'm crushing life. How about you? It's like, well, it's kind of hard to resonate with that all the time.
Totally. Totally. I think we can isolate ourselves so easily. I certainly can. I'm like, "Oh, I'm going through this thing and no one else is going through it for whatever reason. It's like unique to me, but no, like that's all circulating, has been circulating past, present and future within humanity forever. It's like your story is unique, but the feeling, whether it's grief or joy or hardship or confusion or isolation, those things are felt by everybody, perhaps at different points in the timeline, but felt by everybody. And I think it's something that I really show up in my prayer to nature with, is I'm able to just come here as I am, just fully as I am. Maybe I'm raging that day for whatever reason, or maybe I'm really deep in grief that day, or maybe I'm fully in joy. Whatever it is, I'm able to show up in the wild or in nature in that way, and be held no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
And not have someone or something try to change you or pull you out of that feeling or problem solve it for you. You're able to just show up with what you have as you are in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has been a huge refuge for me. If there's not an ear to listen, or maybe I'm not feeling that inclined to share it, I can just show up to some wild place in nature that I've cultivated a relationship with, and it will see me and hold me as I am.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, love that. Do you ever bring song into your prayer or into your? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What type of songs show up?
Ooh.
Is it ever with an instrument, or is it mostly your voice?
It's mostly my voice.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt really connected to my voice. I think it kind of used to be this little like private thing just for me as a child, and coming face to face with that and confronting that fear of like, even though there's no other person around and I'm just in nature, like I'm confronting this aspect of myself that doesn't want to be seen.
Yeah.
This podcast is brought to you by B Micro, organic freeze-dried microgreens for easy, everyday nutrition. Sprinkle them on any meal and enjoy the benefits. Shop now at bmicro.farm and use PLANT15 to save 15% off your next order.
But it's the most forgiving and gracious space to show up with that kind of fear or shyness, because no one is judging you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the birds don't measure themselves against another bird, you know. They're all just singing for the sake of being alive almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about that too. They're not comparing themselves and then being like, the bird can't sing because it's not as pretty as that bird's song.
Mm-hmm.
At least I don't think they are. I'm not a bird.
I don't think they are either. And for me, like with this podcast, it's like, I'm like, I feel a little tightness in my throat to share, a little bit of a disconnect. And I'm like, I'm going to lean into that, because that's where the growth is. The things where I'm like, this is kind of hard or uncomfortable, it's like, that's where I'm going to grow like a huge amount, versus, this is already easy for me, or this is no big deal. It's like, well, where's the growth in that?
Yeah.
And with the growth mindset, which I really enjoy growth, so like lean into these things. So now putting my voice out there is pretty new. This is practice. I just try to look at everything like practice. I'm just practicing forever. It's just all practice forever.
Creation for creation's sake. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Art for art's sake. You know, like, why not do it? I even felt a little bit of that showing up. I was like, should I have a topic? Should I have parameters that I can work within? But that is taking away from the mystery of the moment. Like, who am I in the mystery of the moment? What am I going to say if I'm not scripted? You know, and that place feels really exciting.
Yeah, it's fun to be in this. I'm finding the edges. Like, I'm not sure I've asked many of the questions that I had scripted out, but I'd prepared in some ways. We talked before, and that was helpful. It's like, am I just going question by question? Is it all flow? Is it no preparation? Is it like I'm finding my way with this as I find my voice and I find what this even is? I wonder what's showing up for you in terms of what this podcast is. I'm calling it plant frequencies. I'm saying it's discovering the connection or exploring the connection of people and plants. And I'm thinking that it actually needs to be even more specific than that. I'm not quite sure what it is. Who am I talking to? What type of consistent message am I giving them? Why are they tuning in? I'm in the exploration of it. Some of it is around, that's showing up for me, is around business and people that are in the business of plants. And how did you get into this? How did you find yourself in this business? Why are you in this business? What do you think the future of this business? Like, being more around plant entrepreneurship, I think, because I think business is one of the most powerful forces on our earth right now. It's like for good. It's like business can do a tremendous amount of good. Yeah, I'm playing with that because I'm noticing as I'm learning from others that have podcasts, they're like, you gotta be just, what are people tuning in for? Anything coming up for you with that for what I'm doing here?
I think that what you're doing and connecting people and plants and people, maybe this historically wouldn't have been profited from people in the plant world in the same way. But that's the world that we're showing up in, and that's the world that we live in. And I often reflect on my own role in the world as a herbalist, as a clinical herbalist, as someone who's holding a container and a space for people. It's like, okay, I have this, almost ancient role, and yet I want to do this as my vocation, as my purpose for everything, as my business. And so how do I also make that profitable in a way? It's a hard hurdle to jump. But I think I always just come back to like leaving space for the mystery, like holding this container and having it be wide or almost like amorphous enough to hold all the different people that are going to show up. And
appreciating the beauty of the mystery too.
Totally. Yeah, all the different people that you're going to get to talk to and be connected through a different person that was on the podcast as well, and holding space. Like, how wide can this container get so that it can hold all of it? Which feels like what you're doing. To me at least, and maybe that's wrong.
That's what I want to do, and then I'm like, oh, the coaching that I'm receiving is like niche down even more, get more specific. It's like a show that people want to know what they're getting every time.
Yeah.
And maybe even in just like as specific a way as possible. You're talking to this person about this thing, like every time. But yet I'm like, I kind of, at least in this moment, am enjoying the freedom of, yeah, there's a plant theme. The people that are coming on the podcast are all professionals in the world of plants. And it's like, well, let's just see what shows up. And I get to practice the muscle of like the curiosity and like, oh, can I ride that kind of like wave, that flow? Can I catch it? How quickly can I catch it? Yeah, it's interesting. What's been your experience with this, being on the guest side of this? How's it going for you?
I really am enjoying the organic conversation and the prompts that you're showing up with, and how you're like very dynamically asking questions about not just what I do in the world, but who am I? Who am I as a person sitting across from you, sitting across from a wider audience as well is really refreshing. I think sometimes, maybe even going back to our original conversation, my idea of podcasts and this sort of like interview style is almost very like put in a box.
Yeah, that's kind of like news anchor, like, hey, we've got 2 minutes before our commercial and we got to like bang, bang, bang. Yeah. We just want to hear a couple of sound bites that we could turn into something. And yeah, this is like very spacious. My goal every time is to just get to 2 hours. Yeah. There's times where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I want to quit. I'm like, let's just keep going. Yeah. Let's get to the 2 hours and we'll just see what shows up and just stay curious. And yeah, and offer myself a grace too. Sometimes I'm like, man, that was like, that took me like a paragraph to ask that question. I'm like, I'm not even quite sure what the question is, but we'll just throw it over there. I hope you heard a question.
Yeah, and that's that. I keep having this imagery come up of, like you can clear a piece of land, right? And you can manicure it in a certain way and clean it up. But if you kind of just let it be for a while without, tending it or messing with it too much, there might just be like a whole bunch of different plants coming together, and maybe they tangle themselves together and maybe it gets kind of like wild and doesn't touch on the expectation that you had. And I think that's a really beautiful space to be in. Like, okay, we have our area that we're in, but whatever chooses to come up through that soil is kind of on its own accord.
Yeah, I'm in this moment, I'm just creating space to see what shows up, and I'm letting this path that I'm inspired to go down show me what it is as much as I'm trying to figure out what it is, or just even allowing it to. And I think the patience in me is like, no, I need to know exactly who I'm talking to and why and all of that. And
totally.
This conversation would certainly be a lot different. And I was like, no, we're only talking about plant entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, that's interesting, but that's pretty narrow.
Mm-hmm.
Can be kind of narrow too.
Mm-hmm. I think always like starting wide, and then like in the process, it will almost naturally carve its own space within, rather than starting really narrow and trying to then widen. At least feels resonant for me.
Yeah, that's a great way to go at it. I think my mindset coming in was, I want to ask you a couple of like quick questions to just like, warm it up, like we're going back and forth, like smaller questions, and then I give you a little bit like meatier of a question to jump in, like, why did you become an herbalist, or what was great? This is like give you a little bit more, and now we're going. But just try to have like the first little bit. That's what I was playing with on this one, and then like how can I like really just stay in this, almost like we're in our own, almost like it's like a trance. I'm like,
totally.
Where I'm like, we are just like, we're creating this thing together, and through that I get to even realize that that's a thing. I was like, oh wow, yeah, that is a thing, and this is a safe way to go about it. Is just trust that two people will just show up, and with some preparation and some good intention and some energy, it's like this plane will take off, and it'll fly.
Absolutely. I think that the sort of like wild organic spaces are really scary. And really scary, definitely in this realm of society as well. Kind of want everything to be controllable and measurable, and how's this going to go? I know the outcome, or I have an idea of it. So it's almost like cultivating a relationship with wild space, wild place, and kind of letting the like weeds and the flowers and the whatever else wants to come through weave itself in.
Beautiful. Well, thank you very much. I wonder what might be something that you'd like to leave these listeners with. What's something that is kind of on your heart right now?
I think that the magic of spring and feeling the sun and the warmth and being on the other side of that chamber of transition is really inspiring me a lot recently, and really adding to my prayer and the prayer that I'm walking in the world. And I think that I'm carving more space in my day-to-day life to sit with my other than human kin and hear what they have to say, even if it's not obvious. Like, sit with the dandelions in their yard. They have something to tell you, and
eat some of them.
Yeah, and eat some of them too, as long as they're not like peed on or sprayed.
Yeah, right. Don't eat the sprayed ones. Yeah, that one that you grew yourself, they're good.
Yeah, like the source, and if you can't eat them, just sit with them and see what comes up for you.
Would you make them any type of like a water offering? Would you give them anything with the intention of, in the past, things were much more reciprocal with nature. Now we're in this kind of mindset of like, okay, give me something, dandelion, tell me something. And the dandelion's like, well, I can give you a little bit, but if you were really, this is some of my teachings that I've received, if you really want me to open up, make me some type of an offering as well. That's a contract, a give, a win-win.
Totally.
Not a just like a take.
Absolutely. I love giving water to this land in particular because we're so dominated by fire. And so this landscape, at least to me, and maybe this is how other people feel too, but this land doesn't want more fire. I almost sometimes don't even really like want to smudge outside, because is this really what this land is asking for? So I think water offerings are a really beautiful way to show up and either begin to cultivate a relationship or expand on an already established relationship. So I love offering water. I think even offering like your energetic space and attention and awareness is such a gift. And maybe that looks different for everybody, like maybe you want to take a little sprinkle of something special to you and offer it to a plant, or good compost. What an offering. And show up from that place as well. But I think just like a listening ear and a deep awareness, a wide periphery is such a gift.
Now, where can people find out more about you, learn about your work, just kind of check out what you got going on more?
Yeah, my LLC, my private practice is called Silver Wing Apothecary. I have a tiny Instagram page and a website where people can find out more about my offerings and what I do in the world and how I work with plants or like workshops and events that I have coming up. I do a lot of like community classes in the summer through Trident booksellers and cafe.
Shout out Trident.
Yeah, shout out Trident. Shameless plug. Yeah, that space is really dear to me. I worked there for a while, formulated some of their herbal tea selection, and have a lot of community there. So I worked there, and I also work at the Colorado School of Clinical Herbalism, where I do education and hold a container for people on their path and on their journey to learning and studying, becoming. So I'm there frequently also. And
I'm noticing your jewelry. Is that something that you've made? Is that part of your kind of art and work today too?
Yeah, I am a budding silversmith. I've been doing it for about 1.5 years and really love learning from metal, particularly silver. I work mostly with silver and the energy of silver, and so very humbled by this craft. But yeah, I do commission-based work, and I release like smaller collections periodically as well, either through my website or just kind of like Instagram offerings, marketing kind of in a way. A lot of it is word of mouth. A lot of it is people just like seeing a piece and being like, wow, I really love this, and meeting them in that. But I do work with metal.
And why silver? Why is that kind of the one for you right now?
Silver is affiliated with the moon, ruled by the moon, and even like, across mythology as well is really closely tied with the moon. So I think I have felt really called into this lunar space of myself and my craft and my lens on the world. And so I really am connecting with silver through the moon.
What's one thing you believe to be true about the moon that most people might not know or think to be true?
That it has more of an effect and a relationship with us than we might realize.
If you were to personify the moon, who is the moon?
This like really loving, spacious mother with like long, wide arms that sort of like holds and nurtures and like nestles you into her embrace. I also like sometimes oscillate between that and this very like stoic, like warrior goddess archetype as well.
I would say your necklace is almost like armor, like energy for me. I think to me that necklace you've harnessed more of the warrior goddess.
Yeah.
So if people want more of that mother, that warrior goddess kind of energy, you're available for commissions on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Beautiful.
I do also sort of kind of see this as armor in a way.
Yeah.
Or just like having the weight of something that like emanates something special to you is a force field in itself.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been such a gift to sit with you.
Get to know you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's one of my favorite things about this podcast is like you go in, some people I don't even know beforehand, like we didn't know each other beforehand, and it's like, oh, there's like a friendship that is like, oh, okay, I could think of where if someone's like, hey, I'm looking for an, I'm like, oh, Jordan, like you're part of someone that I would like to support.
Thank you. Yeah, likewise.
Oh, and with that, I would like to give you one of my products. So this is freeze-dried broccoli microgreens. Yep. So
wow.
Yeah, grown, washed, freeze-dried, USDA organic, regenerative organic, 1-year shelf life. Don't have to worry about spoilage. It's a very easy way to sneak those vegetables into any diet. And they have very unique antioxidants in them as well. Are you familiar with the broccoli sprout microgreen world at all?
A little bit. I feel like the microgreen that I gravitate to the most is broccoli. Can you speak to that?
Well, broccoli, interestingly, is a man-made vegetable. It comes from cabbage. It's an Italian, like, man-made vegetable. And yeah, it's mostly cabbage. Cabbage, broccoli, all the cruciferous family. They have very unique antioxidants in them, enzymes. So there's myrosinase, glucoraphanin. When they combine, they create this compound called sulforaphane. That's the one that most people go to the broccoli sprouts and microgreens for, because they activate this pathway in the body called the NRF2 pathway. And it's basically like the master regulator. It's like the special forces in the body when something bad is happening, inflammation, a cut, a wound, whatever. It tells it goes to the DNA, and it tells the DNA, hey, this has happened. We need to produce some genes, some proteins to go fight this, and we'll help that. Basically, we have an antioxidant factory in us, and this is the most powerful fuel that I'm aware of for producing more antioxidants. Like, we can produce a lot more antioxidants than we can eat.
Wow.
And antioxidants are good because they get rid of bad things.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Do you find that there's like one microgreen that's more powerful than the other?
Yeah, and we've lab tested as well, but I'll sit with these plants, I'll juice them fresh, like I cut it living, juice it, and then I can like really feel it. It's like an IV, right? And then like, whoa, I can really sense. And I'd say we know less than 10% of what's going on in these plants, like less than 10% of the things in it has been discovered. But for the NRF2 activation, which is like kind of like the holy grail of antioxidants, the red cabbage is the most powerful.
Wow.
The broccoli is the best seller because broccoli's got just the best PR. There's the most people talking about broccoli, like broccoli. But broccoli is cabbage. Red cabbage, which is actually purple, is very unique because just purples in nature are really powerful. They signal a very unique antioxidant, anthocyanins, like what you see in blueberries and elderberries and things like that. Very unique color in nature, very powerful, and not exactly sure why it's activating the NRF2 pathway so strongly. Sulforaphane is definitely a powerful activator of it, but there's other things as well. But it activates it like 2 to 3 times as powerfully as broccoli.
Wow.
Yeah, which is what you want. More bang for your buck.
The immature broccoli.
Yeah. That's about 14 days old. And that's when the plant is naturally the most concentrated in all these things. The vitamins, minerals, nutrients, and then it has these really unique antioxidants in it as well that burn off over time. Like you can't really get sulforaphane from adult broccoli.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Yeah, the vital expression of food. Powerful.
Yeah, what's your experience with microgreens? How do they show up for you?
Ooh.
Or sprouts? They're somewhat similar. Difference being sprouts are grown like in a mason jar. They don't go through photosynthesis. They're 2 to 4 days old. Microgreens 10 to 14 days old. They're grown in a growing medium like soil. They go through photosynthesis, photonutrients, chlorophyll. Our lab tests say anywhere from 2 to 10 times as many nutrients in the microgreen as the sprout. Sprouts is a lot faster, easier to grow.
I didn't know that. That's really fascinating.
You should start a podcast.
You think?
You're crushing this.
I love to just learn. I'm such a student of life in that way, maybe to a fault. You know, I went and got acupuncture yesterday, a little segue, and I was just like, they're poking my back, and you know, I'm so fascinated by meridian points and TCM and acupuncture. I just wanted to ask, you know, what are you doing? What are you doing back there? Like, well, how'd you choose that point? And what are you sensing? And like, what is the needle telling you? So I love to learn.
Especially about self. That's why I'm here for you. Like, tell me what is going on with me.
Yeah.
You've got some magic where you can see things that are invisible to me. What are you seeing and sensing? Who am I to you?
Who are you to me?
Yeah, when you're working with a real pro that can see things at, you know, levels that are invisible to me, I'm like, I don't know what you're seeing and sensing. It's like, you've been a acupuncturist for 40 years. Like, you've got magic in how you're doing this. What's the magic? What's the magic telling you?
Yeah, like how you can read people and how you can read energy expressions around the body. Like yesterday, I wish they would have expanded on it. They told me, because it's like a part of their practice not to talk to their clients about what they're doing.
Oh.
But they like found some sort of stuck energy point here, and they were just like, ooh, you know, just like having this visceral reaction to it, and I just wanted to know so badly what they were reading
They were
and
oohing
feeling.
and eyeing?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I was like, come on, guys.
I know. I'm like, this
Keep
is
it
my
to yourself
body.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
what's going on?
Like, can you at least give me like a breadcrumb?
Yeah.
All I heard was stuck energy, and of course, like, if you hear that without any contextual understanding of what that means, you're like, oh, that doesn't sound very good.
No, I recently had a sinus infection, and when your lymph nodes get, I don't know, congested, most of it lives on your left side. 75% of it. I went down a rabbit hole of learning about it and how you can do all this like tapping and all that kind of way. But most of the blockage is going to be on your left side.
Wow.
Specifically, like right here.
Do you know why?
I don't know why.
Huh.
That's just how the YouTube master said it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love those guys.
Yeah.
Because I got out of that appointment yesterday and I was like, armpit meridian point, energy point. I'm not an Eastern practitioner, so I'm probably butchering this, but yeah, so
you got lymph nodes there.
Wild.
I mean, they're here. Yeah. So could be definitely there's lymph node overlap there.
I'm fascinated. Maybe I'll go to school again or something.
You can just watch a YouTube video.
Yeah,
like, how do I drain my lymph nodes?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so it's easy.
Maybe these guys have some answers.
Or do you ever do neti pot?
I have neti potted as a verb.
Something like that.
I have, yeah. I used to use it a lot more frequently when I had like upper respiratory, like living on a different landscape, sort of allergic responses, histamine responses to different plants and pollens here.
There's some cultures that will do neti pot just to help balance the mind, bring the mind back into balance. It's not just like clearing, phlegm and mucus. It's some cultures use it in other ways too.
Wow. Yeah, I've actually like dispensed neti pot herbal therapeutics that people can essentially like rinse herbal infusions through their sinuses.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've only ever used like the salt packs that you get on Amazon. But yeah, I would love to take it to the next level.
There's a multiverse out there.
Yeah, I love it. You can go to infinity on anything.
Yeah, totally.
Last thought, tell me like more of your opinion on the microgreens. What's like the energetics of consuming a young plant? What might that do for somebody?
I feel like there's this like youthful vitality piece, and that has been like oddly misconstrued in like the everyday verbiage, where we're all, trying to look like we're youthful, even if we're maybe not at that stage in our maturation cycle. But there's a youthful piece too, and I think what that means is that it's so full of vitality, so full of this like dense mineral matrices, that such vital medicine to consume and have take up space in your body, really replenishing and restorative. I think, or rather I know, when one mineral is out of balance in any way in this greater web, this greater matrix, it cascades into a whole slew of other minerals being out of balance within that web. And yeah, just replenishing that life force is really beautiful. Not to mention they're just yummy. Love microgreens on my sandwich. Love them on a salad. Love them. I think I've just eaten them out of the pack, if I'm being honest.
Can I show you here?
Yeah. Wow. So what is the purpose of freeze drying them?
It retains all the good things while extending the shelf life. So there's lots of ways to dry things.
Should I eat them?
Yeah, you could have a little bit. You can air dry it, dehydrate it. You can freeze drying is the way where there's no heat. It freezes down to -40 degrees, pulls all the moisture out under like extreme pressure, and that's why it keeps the flavor, the color, the texture, most importantly the nutrients. Where dehydration will burn off anywhere from 50 to 100% of most things that are in microgreens. The freeze drying will retain up to 100%, 90, like typically 90+% of everything, but up to 100% of everything, while extending the shelf life over 1 year. So now we can ship it to anyone, anywhere, and they don't have to worry about it going bad. since they're just little babies, when they're fresh, there's no beating fresh, but they go bad really quickly.
Yeah,
Think about like
they
basil at the store.
Absolutely.
Like basil, that's like 3, 4, 5 weeks old. These are only 1 to 2 weeks old, so they're even more fragile than that beat up basil we see at the grocery store.
Totally.
So they do not ship well fresh. Yeah.
That's delicious.
Thank you.
Really good.
I made that for you.
I could just eat them as a snack.
Yeah.
Plain.
There's a lot in there. That is equivalent to like one whole big tray.
Wow.
Yeah, they're over 90% water, so they like really crunch down quite a bit.
Wow. And then how do people find them? Are they in like local grocers around Boulder?
Yeah, we're mostly online on our website. We're on Amazon, but since it's lightweight, it's shelf stable, we can ship it anywhere for very inexpensive.
That's
so
epic.
That's my focus on.
I would love to connect you into the web of the school.
Sure, I would love that.
As well, and maybe do some education, or do you have like a facility where you're growing in Boulder?
I used to have a facility. Now that has been all outsourced. So I used to grow it, wash it, freeze dry it. Now we have a partner that does all of that for us.
Wow, sweet. Yeah, coming with like the educational background that you have, and it also being like food centric, would be really beautiful.
Sweet. Get me in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure. I'm really excited to go home with this and play around.
Enjoy.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.